So we're going to get into it. This is the Beast Gang Podcast. This is going to be a review for Logan. It's directed by James Mangold. He's known for Identity, which is a great movie, Walk the Line, and the last Wolverine movie. It's written by James Mangold and Scott Frank. Frank wrote The Minority Report, A Walk Among the Tombstones, which was a good movie, and the last Wolverine movie. It stars Hugh Jackman as Logan / Wolverine, Patrick Stewart as Professor Xavier, Daphne Keane as Laura, and Boyd Holbrook as Pierce. Jackman has been in all the previous X-Men movies, except for a couple. Patrick Stewart for X-Men and Star Trek as Captain Picard. Keane has mostly been on TV, and Holbrook for the Narcos Netflix series, which was also good. And the synopsis is, in the near future, a weary Logan cares for alien Professor X in a hideout on the Mexican border. But Logan attempts to hide from the world, and his legacy are upended when a young mutant arrives, being pursued by a dark force. Alright, so I'm just going to give a small overview. So it begins with a carjacking. Wolverine is working a day job. He's a basically Uber driver. He takes care of Professor Xavier. Professor Xavier has dementia. And also he has like this weird psychic ability to kill people. So they live in Mexico. A woman approaches Wolverine about asking for help. He rebuffs her. That's where we'll stop. And Keith, what is your viewpoint on Logan?
I thought Logan was probably one of the best X-Men movie that's come out so far. Anyone who comes after Hugh Jackman with Logan, I don't know how they're going to be able to do it. Like in terms of story, character development, the entire story, the entire movie was like spot on. And this is the way to do a movie series or a trilogy when you come off a completely crappy first movie, which was X-Men Origins, to get to this point. And it was probably as extremely enjoyable and had some laughs, had some entertaining moments, but in the end, it kind of served as an end piece to the entire X-Men franchise that Bryan Singer put together. So good idea to make it rated R. They could have gone more with the violence, I think. That would probably been the only thing that would have enhanced it a little bit more.
So, Mike.
Yep.
What is your view on Logan?
So I got two tiers. I got one tier of joy and one tier of sheer disappointment.
Okay.
The tier of joy is because this is by far, without a doubt, to me, the best X-Men movie that Fox has ever done. In 17 years that Hugh Jackman has done this role. I don't even think there's a debate or argument about the issue. The disappointment is that Fox could have done this 17 years ago and gave us a shit ton of X-Men movies that made sense and were worth watching. You don't do it when the man's getting ready to walk from the role. I'm sorry, it is completely jacked up that you literally just gave us this when the man is walking from the role. This is when you give it to us. When you're going to have to recast one of the best actors in the business. And he gives one of his best performances. And mind you, this is a comic book character. Are you fucking serious? And he's going to go, and this is what y'all going to leave us with.
Now, counterpoint, do you think part of this was also attributed to the success of Deadpool?
And I was getting ready to say, bottom line is, you need to give Ryan Reynolds a thank you note, a card, a love letter, and a big fat thank you. Because had Deadpool not worked, and had the heads of Fox not changed over, we would have never got this. Logan would have never gotten made, or Logan would have been a crappy movie, right along the line with some of the other X-Men movies. I'm not going to say which ones, Last Stand. And we just would have never had this. I understand the business side of it. You got to make money. But at the end of the day, X-Men has always been, in the Marvel Universe, a little bit more edgy than any of the other characters. And Wolverine's been that edgy character. You can't have a guy that's got claws on both hands walking around scared to kill people. It doesn't work. It's always been more mature content. So why would you wait this long to finally have the balls to say, oh, okay, well, Deadpool worked and made us a crap load of money. So let's just go ahead and go with it and see how it goes. But you're going to give us that, and then that's just it. Swan song, walk off, and we're going to redo this with somebody else.
We're going to go to Matt. What is your view on Logan?
Regarding this movie, it's the best Wolverine by far. Excellent send-off for Hugh Jackman and Patrick Stewart. It's a more mature grief, in my opinion anyway, is what DC Comics was trying to do from the get-go, whereas the Marvel Universe was more of like happy-go-lucky. And then DC was supposed to be sharp, gritty, edgy, more mature. And that's what this particular movie seemed to capture. It's funny because, in my opinion, the theme of the movie has been family, but it's contrasted with R rating. And Mike is 100% correct. This is what Wolverine should have been since day one. And likely was probably from the trend from comic book characters where, guess what? Cutting off heads, F word here, F bomb there, can make decent money. And I think that's where they got this off of, because if it wasn't for Deadpool and its commercial success, I don't think they would have went around this route anyway. And the tone of the movie, very ingenious, the way they started without giving out any spoilers.
All right. So, James,
Yeah,
your viewpoint.
man. Okay, I agree with
Yeah.
Mike and Matt.
Yeah.
They should have made this movie a long time ago, or made something like this a long time ago when they first had the option to have Wolverine. He's an animal, and they kind of tamed him down just to tame him down. So it is very unfortunate that this is his last movie. Hugh Jackman, this is his last reiteration of the role, because he did such a great job with the character, like just alone. And also with Patrick Stewart. Like, don't get me wrong, James McAvoy is a pretty good Professor X, but that role was for Patrick Stewart, in my opinion. I'm
Man,
just
what other
disappointed.
guy has a bald head like that?
This is perhaps the best X-Men movie I've seen. And it's just disappointing that this is going to be the last one for Wolverine. And then they had to start over and get someone else, and he has to basically be compared to him. That's a humongous shoes to fill. I don't know how it's going to work. This was a great movie. I mean, I was already attached to the characters prior to seeing this, but this was actually closure to a long story that's been going on. And the closure is good, but then it's also very, very sad, because there were points I was like, I felt it. I felt horrible when, certain things happened in this movie. But overall, it's a great movie, great send-off, and I enjoyed the story.
All right, for me, I like this movie a lot, but did not love it. I have some negatives first, and I'm going to say some positives. There was too much driving and not enough dying. Anybody agree?
What are you, the director for Resident Evil?
Yes.
Action versus drama. I agree that there wasn't enough action scenes in it. Should have been more.
Boyd Holbrook was kind of a generic bad guy, and I didn't like his accent.
Mhm.
Anyone agree? Like, haven't seen him in
Yes.
Narcos. That is throwing me off. But he is a good
and
actor.
he was in Run All Night, and he didn't have any, crazy accent in that either.
You talking about the cyborg guy?
Yeah.
Pierce.
Yeah.
He was just annoying to me. I mean,
Well, I think he got cast mainly because he worked with Mango before,
More than likely.
and then he was on Hatfields and McCoys, which is a Western-based kind of show, and
Yeah,
the movie
we
had a
talk about
Western
that
tone
a
to it
lot.
because Mango directed 310 to Yuma, which is a Western film,
Yep.
and that's kind of how the feel of the film went the entire way through. Was kind of like making it a Western and adding other elements into it as well.
it was a road trip movie. That's what I thought.
Mhm.
It seemed like it had the feel of a road trip movie, meaning that, like Barry said, you're always on the road. Like, you're always traveling to get to a destination. I mean, that was the point of the film, but it should... Go ahead, Barry. But
All right.
yeah, I see what you're saying.
Well, I mean, the theme of the film was a journey. If you really start breaking everything down about it,
So,
Okay.
again, I'm just stating negatives. It's a little too long. Does anyone agree?
I can't think of any scenes that they could have cut back because.
Well, the driving scenes.
All right, they could have. Yeah, they could have edited some of those out, but they would be only a few seconds. I'll be honest with you, I didn't really pay that much attention.
To be honest with you, I didn't realize how long is the movie? About 2 hours?
Yeah,
2
it's a little
hours,
over
15
2
minutes.
minutes. Yeah.
It didn't, for some reason, it didn't seem like 2 hours and 15 minutes to me. Maybe because
I don't think it was that bad.
Huh?
No, because I think we were emotionally drawn to the character.
That's
I
why
mean-
I think we were just so immersed into this world. I could say I did not realize it was that long. I thought it was like, I tell you, I didn't really care how long it was. I was really, really invested into the story.
All right.
I mean, the Marvel Cinema, was it MCU? Marvel Cinema Universe, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
I mean, they've been developing that over long periods of time compared to what I call the FCU, the Fox. It is Fox, correct?
Yeah.
It has
Yeah.
The Wolverine, X-Men. Out of all the characters, he's the one we're most drawn to.
All right. So let me just go ahead and state some positives. So this movie.
It has Hugh Jackman.
Oh, hold on, Matt. So this movie reminded me of 3 movies, and technically 4. But so one of those movies is Children of Men, because in Children of Men,
Mhm.
there's a point where people cannot have children, and then there's a woman that is pregnant and must be kind of sheltered off into the safe zone. The next movie is Looper.
What? Why on earth would that remind you?
So Looper had a farm scene
What? No, man, no.
where there was an attack on the farm in the farm scene. Same thing happens in this movie. Because there's a farm scene in Looper. So there's a kid named Sid who is supposed to be the person that is going to ruin the future, which is why Bruce Willis's character is supposed to go back, and Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who plays the same character as Bruce Willis. Then The next thing it reminds me of is Stranger Things, which is pretty obvious.
Yeah, kind of favors her.
And the last one, I know you're going to go ahead and hate me for this one. Cowboys versus Aliens.
How the heck did that even come? Like, what part of Cowboys versus Aliens did this?
The last part where they go to the cliffs and they're fighting aliens there.
I didn't even look. Not even a little bit.
You're not looking, Keith. You're not looking hard enough.
You got to look pretty damn hard to see that.
So, Hugh Jackman is always solid as Wolverine. And those rage modes is the Wolverine I want to see all the time, 24/7, 365.
Yeah, I was kirking out when he was when he was going through his rampage. I was like, Well, my wife was looking at me like, "Are you okay?" I was feeling each flow.
But that was always him. I mean, I know for a fact Jackman has said before in interviews, they want to do the Berserker mode thing on film for the longest time. Fox would never let them do it because it was so violent.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But again, if you read the books and you've done your homework, that's Wolverine.
Yeah, that's why I was like, when they actually did something close to it, like this movie, I was very animated.
Let's get into some questions and answers. So we're going to go to Keith. What did you think about the new character, Laura or X-23?
I thought they played it right. They did a good job characterizing her and kind of making it fit and how she came about. You know, her nationality, the actress played into it very well. Action scenes with her were pretty good. Were extremely well done. She was a fantastic little addition. I liked her.
Mike, how did you feel about X-23, Laura?
I thought she was good. I liked the dynamic that they had her fighting style mimic Wolverine, since, you know, that's who she's kind of supposed to be formulated after. I did have to chuckle a couple times because I thought she had a couple facial expressions like Michael Jackson a little bit, which threw me off. But
Michael Jackson.
yeah, if you look at it a couple times, I mean, I even told my wife, I'm like, she looks like Michael Jackson. But I mean, I thought she did really good in the role for what she had to do. So I thought it was casted really well.
All right, Matt.
Thought she was casted pretty well myself. I don't really have much feedback on her because she didn't spit a lot of lines. Most of her on-screen time was just actions and flips and stabbing and killing and
that's
chopping
where
off
most
arms.
of the comparisons I made
Indeed,
to.
man.
That's why most of the comparisons I made to Stranger Things, because Elle didn't talk much.
Right.
So you compared it to a couple other movies, Barry, but not other movies that I was thinking of when I was watching it. I was thinking of Terminator 2
I see what you're talking about in that.
because of the dynamics of past versus future. And another movie I also thought of was, or not even a movie, but video game. Was it The Last of Us?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This would be a lot of comparison.
Anyone think that?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. So, you know, while I'm watching that movie, throw in a Western type theme. That's kind of what I was thinking. But as far as a girl, I mean, she didn't speak a lot. The only thing she did was a lot of kicks and slashes, and she played that part quite well.
All right, James.
I thought she did a pretty good job, and I agree with you 100% that I can see the comparisons between her and Eleven from Stranger Things, because most of her acting is done through facial expressions and gestures and emotions. So it's not very much dialogue, and when she does speak, she does enough with her dialogue that she does have that it fits the role. And you can actually see a genuine connection between her and Hugh Jackman. So, well, her and Wolverine, or Logan, whatever you want to call it. The action scenes were a lot better than what I thought they would have been. I do agree with Keith on that. I mean, she was destroying people.
She was savage.
Well,
yeah, I mean,
let me get into my comment because it goes into that.
Mhm.
So it's good to see children killing each other than Battle Royale and Hunger Game.
even
And-
though Hunger Games is a ripoff of Battle Royale, but you know,
Yeah.
what do I know?
No one's
I know nothing.
But she did a good job. And even her non-acting is like 11. You have to be very emotive and expressive, also subtle at the same time. So, again, good job to her. So, the next question is, how did you feel about Patrick Stewart? Keith?
Spot on. He played this role not so much as the regal Professor Xavier that's like had all the answers. He was very much a frail old man who was
He's broken.
broken in
Charles.
mind. Now his body is failing him, and now his mind's failing him.
It's almost like Sarek.
Not. I wouldn't go that far. I know you're taking it, but it wasn't so much a loss of function where he was trying to hide it from himself. It was a loss of function where he goes into a fit in like a 5-mile radius. He's killing people. So if he has problems, if he goes into one of his episodes or whatever, he's outright hurting people. So it was more along that lines. And the fact that he was kind of lost and like he didn't kind of understand why it had deteriorated such a state, but he's kind of trying to get Logan to re-embrace like what the X-Men were all about. So there was still that element of hope in the character, but right from the get out, his end was coming and he's going to take people with him if it kept going like that.
All right. So, Mike.
It's Patrick Stewart. I mean, enough said.
Okay.
I mean, but seriously, Patrick Stewart has been in this role so long that how could he even go wrong in this movie? Even in the crappiest X-Men movies, he's still like the one shining light out of it all. He's that one sense of calm, that one sense of guidance and fatherhood throughout the film, that when everything else is going to crap, he's the glue that sticks everything together. And even in this movie, for the tone and things that are going on, it's the same thing. Every time he hit the screen and he was in a scene, you just sat there and you almost felt the same feelings and emotions that he was emoting on screen, to where you can understand why Logan was doing some of the things that he was doing and some of the emotions that Jackman was letting off.
All right. So, Matt.
I thought he played an amazing role. Wolverine would be the yin, and I guess Patrick Stewart would be the yang. The role that he played was more of like a father role. I'm pretty sure everyone felt it. Key points in the movie outside of the action in this particular instance was amazing. But the part where they are sitting at the dinner table, and it's a sense of peace. It's a sense of peace. It's a sense of things that he's been running from for a long period of time. It is what he's lacked his whole life. Patrick Stewart played an integral part for that, as well as he was the buffer between all the anarchy that was happening outside that house during the dinner scene. So I don't think without him that would have been possible at all, given that the theme of the movie is family.
James.
Like I mentioned before, Patrick Stewart embodies the role. He is Professor X. He will always be Professor X. He did a great job, but he did this is going to sound weird. He did too good of a job. Mike mentioned earlier, you felt what he was feeling. You didn't know. I just felt like I was looking at like my ailing grandmother, and it's like, you know that their time is coming and everything is going to end for them and everything. It's just I don't know. It's hard to explain. I mean, he did a great job.
It hits your emotions.
Right. I was just so attached to every word he was saying because in my gut, I had a feeling that this would probably be the last time. Like anytime could be the last time that he was going to say something. And he was the moral compass of this story. Even though he was all types of crazy, but it was just that he still kept Logan in check. Kind of funny to me how their interaction became like, compared to the other movies, this interaction they had in this movie was definitely like father and son.
Exactly.
It was definitely like father and son. Before it was more like, you're a mentor.
Like teacher student.
Right. Now this is like father son. And it's reverse role. The father is not in great shape. Now the son is taking care of his father. So I thought that was a nice little take on it. And like I said, to piggyback with Matt, this movie is in essence about family.
With all the killing and slashing and disembodiment.
Well, this is how I felt about it. The last time I saw Patrick Stewart in a movie, it was Green Room. And if you haven't seen Green Room, it is a very good thriller movie.
You told me. I need to check that out. You told me about that too.
Yeah. So this is a total 180 from that.
Yeah, I heard he was kind of brutal in that.
Yeah, he was a bad guy in that movie. But Patrick Stewart is a solid person. So just as Mike said, it's Patrick Stewart. The one thing is that I have seen him play this role in Star Trek where he is losing his mind. So it's like the last 2 episodes of Star Trek, which is All Good Things.
Oh, you're talking about the series for oh yeah. Okay, I do remember that.
So it's the same thing almost, where he's like not sure if he's losing his mind, but he is also kind of coming back. So it's like sometimes he's sunsetting, other times he's okay.
No. And this wasn't him having dementia either. Right? This was him playing a old frail man. So
well, he did that in the last 2 episodes.
No, I mean, he did a good job. Shit, I can't. He did a good job. I can't deny that.
He's okay. So we're gonna get into the next question. Where does this stack up in the primary X-Men universe? So those movies are X-Men, X2, X-Men 3, garbage movie.
It
X-Men,
didn't exist, remember?
yeah. Wolverine, X-Men Origin, The Wolverine, and Days of Futures Past. So we're gonna go to Keith.
They act like the third movie didn't take place because in the third movie, Patrick Stewart died.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
So it's clear that they got rid of that. I think it occupies its own little continuity, just like Deadpool does. Logan would rank at the top as being the best X-Men movie.
I would have to disagree.
Disagree all you want. X2 was good because it kind of fulfilled on that promise that the first X-Men movie did. The number of characters it had, it ended up kind of suffering with focusing on a handful of them while just tossing in a number of characters within it. In terms of a pure a story about mutants and what's going on, this played more into the overall scheme of that. It wasn't just a movie about Wolverine. It was a movie about what happened to the mutants as well.
All right, so Mike.
Hands down, best one yet. Period. I don't see where any of the other ones even come close to this one. Maybe Days of Future Past, but no. And there were no references to Jean Grey in this one, which was just even an added bonus.
Well, she
Hey,
got
50
obliterated.
story.
50 years? Shoot.
All right, Matt.
Number one movie, easily. It encompasses everything of what X-Men comics are. Gritty, mature, tad bit of violence. Well, actually, a lot of violence.
Yeah, not tad bit.
I
That would be like a slap on the wrist.
know, right? This is the mature, gritty X-Men universe that we're used to being translated from the comic books, hands down.
All right, James.
This is hard to rate for the simple fact that this movie is totally different from all the other movies that we're mentioning right now. This movie is a comic book movie, but this seems like this is more of a drama comic book movie, meaning it's more dramatic, has a little bit more substance, a little bit more background, more story. But I would rank this as I would say the best X-Men movie to date, but there's a movie that's lurking right behind it too.
For me, I'm going to put X2 and the Wolverine at the very top.
Okay, I can see X2.
All right? Those are dual number ones.
Mm-hmm.
Dual number twos are X-Men and Days of Futures Past. And then this movie. And at the very bottom, very, very bottom, X-Men Origins, Wolverine.
Yes,
The very bottom.
I think that's unanimous.
Yeah.
And last
I don't know. I think Last Stand is worse than that.
No. Last Stand is there.
Look,
It is
as much as Last
oh,
Stand finally gave me a glimpse of Beast on screen, and as much as I love Ian McKellen as Magneto, and some of the other stuff, I'm sorry, Brett Ratner made the crappiest piece of crap. Golden Gate Bridge and the Jean Grey thing. Come on, it's the Dark Phoenix saga. You couldn't even get that right.
Yeah.
I agree.
You think any of this had to do with the writer's strike? Was the writer's strike going on at that time?
Matt, I would give you that, but I have a rule of thumb when it comes to comic book movies. And Jay has heard me say this plenty of times before. You have absolutely no excuse to get a comic book movie wrong because there are tons and tons and tons of books that not only have dialogue, they give you pictures of what it should look like.
Yeah, but about 90% of
That's
these comic book
storyboards.
movies get it wrong.
All right.
That's my point. You shouldn't get it wrong.
All right, so let's move on. I don't mean to cut you off, but let's move on. The next question is, where does this movie rank in your personal favorite comic book movies? So, personal favorite comic book movies.
Oh man.
All right, so we're going to go to Keith.
It would definitely rank in the top 10. I don't feel it would break into the top 5. So it's kind of hard to rank this one. One, I was surprised by how good it did and how well it dealt with. So I thought that they were just going to do a one-off, and they weren't really going to handle the Old Man Logan storyline. But I really liked how they handled this. It wouldn't go into my top 5 because the Marvel Cinematic movies are so damn good. I'd give it around 6 or 7. It wouldn't quite break into the top 5.
All right, so again, where does this rank in your personal favorite comic book movies? So again, that takes into account the Fox movies, the Marvel movies, and also the DC movies. God help them. God help. So, Mike, if you can stop laughing for a second.
Sorry.
All right, go ahead, Mike.
Sorry, I'm still laughing at the DC comic thing. God, they're so bad. All right, I'm sorry. Oh man, where does this rank in my all-time favorites? I haven't quite figured the number out yet, but I can tell you it's definitely top 10, and it might arguably be in top 5. My comparison with this movie is Dark Knight, which is odd for me to say because when I first read a review of it before the movie came out, and people compared it to Dark Knight, I was kind of taken aback because I'm like, it's the Dark Knight. There's a bevy of reasons why that movie, and to me, is one of the godfathers of comic book movies because for a while, if you really watch that movie, you start to forget that we're talking about Batman and the Joker. And for a minute, I forgot that we're talking about Wolverine and Charles Xavier and mutants when I was watching Logan, which is a very tough thing to do for a comic book movie. And I think if you can make a movie that relates to people who aren't even into comics like that, then it's a great film, especially if you can get you emotionally involved and tied to the character. So definitely top 5. I haven't figured out where the number is yet, but I don't think it's quite messing with some of the Marvel movies because Marvel just has their stuff in order.
All right, Matt.
I'll definitely go top 10. I could not put this in top 5 based off what I know of the comics. Mike actually hit it on the spot as far as saying, guess what? Regarding comic book movies, you got books and books. You got pictures. You got dialogue. You got illustrations. Top 10, definitely, but probably on the lower end of top 10. Because I feel shortchanged for the last, 17 years? So I'm a little bitter.
All right.
At least you're honest.
Yeah, I am. I mean, Mike hit it on the point. Batman honestly set the stage for what comic book movies should be.
All right, James.
I would say it's within the top 10 as well. Probably around the same 6 or 7 spot that Keith mentioned. Because, I mean, Marvel is just destroying the game right now. I mean, they put out a lot of good movies. And not to mention, DC has its movies.
They're struggling.
Yeah, they're struggling. But, when I mean DC, I also mean like the Nolan series. So I'm not talking about that great Green Lantern movie. Oh my God, that thing was so amazing.
I have seen that recently.
That's number 1 on my list.
What?
Green Lantern.
All right.
Number 1 is what, worse?
Best, man. Best.
Yeah, what bizarre land are you living in? So, this movie would be in the top 15. So, my top 5 would be Captain America, The Winter Soldier,
That was awesome.
X2, Spider-Man 2, The Wolverine, and Batman Begins.
Civil War's not in it?
No. We had already discussed that. Did not put Civil War above The Winter Soldier.
What?
I agree with that.
I see what you're talking about.
What?
Because Winter Soldier got so good that it was a spy movie with comic book characters.
Honestly, I think they were
And
really good.
plus, Winter Soldier set the tone for Civil War.
They did.
And you can kind of argue that Winter Soldier actually set a really big tone for Marvel because it's kind of the first time they kind of went a little dark with some stuff.
Yeah, because
They
if
did.
you really think about it, you had Iron Man 3, which at the time was okay movie.
No,
but
please.
on a
let's not talk
rewatch,
about that.
it is not a good movie.
Please, let's not talk about that.
Iron Man 2, definitely not a good movie. Iron Man 1 is watchable. Captain America, The Winter Soldier, number 1. But this movie is my top 15. So we'll get into scores. Keith?
I give it a solid 8. I give it that 8 because it handled the storyline very well. It didn't go overboard when it got its R rating, but at the same time, I wish it had more gore, even though it was kind of like quick flash. It didn't feel like a rated R movie. And I think with that R rating, they could have done a lot more with it, but it was an extremely enjoyable film. It was good with the action, but the action versus dramatic elements in it were kind of skewed. They could have done with a couple more action scenes. The storytelling was rock solid. The special effects were good. And I like the characters. The villains turned out to be a lot better than I expected.
I have to disagree.
They started out cardboard, just this standardized crapola villains, especially Pierce. But it turned out Pierce wasn't the actual villain in this movie. It was the man he was working for.
All right. So, Mike, what is your score for Logan?
Right now, I'm at a solid 8.5, but if I see it again, it might get a 9. I'm kind of like Matt. I'm a little bitter about a few things, so I can't give it that whole extra point or 1.5 right now. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. It's certain things that had they done things just a tad bit different and worked some things out behind the scenes, I think it could have just been that much better. But right now, it's a solid 8.5. I think it's a very good movie.
All right, Matt, what is your score?
I'll give it a number 8 for the following reasons. I guess I'll go into the bad. In my opinion, I felt the enemies were weak.
Boyd Holbrook really didn't do much other than say stuff, but go ahead, Matt.
The enemies were weak. If anything, they were trying to be intimidating to, a mutant that has killed, maybe thousands of people during his career. Things I wish it would have went more into detail about. Death of the X-Men, as far as how it actually occurred, as well as...
That was implied.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. I wish they went into more details about it. There was no sense of Fox Cinema universe or any continuation of outside of the characters there, which for most comic book movies, it kind of leads into something else or is attached somehow, whether it's pre or post. Positive is the character depth and the emotional connections that we've had, maybe because he's one of our favorite characters, or it could be the fact that Hugh Jackman, he was a very good actor. Honestly, it's probably a combination of both. I feel shortchanged the last 17 years that this X-Men universe has been out, but I'm happy because I actually saw on screen what it should have been, and the overall theme of family. In my opinion, there was no doubt that the theme of this movie was about family. They had its quiet moments, and from beginning to end, I thought the pacing was great, so I'll definitely give it a solid 8.
James.
I give it 8.5. And the reason why I give it 8.5 is because I'm not gonna lie, I got into my feels a little bit with this movie. All right. There were certain things in this movie I was just like, man, it was sad. I was emotionally invested into the characters. Certain things happened that I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for it at all. I like the story from the actual comic. Of course, they deviated, and I think the deviation from it, from the actual comic story, was pretty good. It was pretty good. The only negative that I have with this movie was that I figured out what happened to the X-Men early into the movie, and that kind of blew me a little bit. But this is a dark tone movie, so you have to go balls deep. And I do agree with everyone else. I think the characters, the villains weren't that great. I mean, because to me, Wolverine was not Wolverine in this. He was not young. He was old.
And reluctant.
Right. Don't get me wrong now. When he got into it, he got into it. But I believe that these villains should have been able to take care of him without any issues, really. This old man gave them a hard time. They weren't strong enough to me. They weren't intimidating enough, period. I mean, it was just like mercenaries with a doctor. That's all it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I give it 8.5.
All right. For me, I'm about to be the contrarian. I'm going to give this a 7.5.
Okay.
So
I can see that.
It's good fight scenes, but I don't think the dramatic elements were compelling or interesting at all. And also, towards the end of the movie, it gets extremely sentimental, and it seemed a little funny. It's like, Daddy, but...
Damn, man, you cold. Because I felt that.
All right.
I
But
don't feel shit.
Kind of to wrap it up, it is a nice conclusion to the primary X-Men universe. Much better than X-Men Origins Wolverine. So, that's the Beast Game Podcast. You can find more of our podcasts at beastgame.com, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Twitter, and YouTube. All right.
You always do that, man.
All
I swear
right.
to God.
So,
This is every podcast. He says some fucked up shit. And then says, that's the Beast Game Podcast.
That's
And
his
he
mic
leaves.
drop. That's his mic drop.
Right.
All right.
You gotta do the mic drop moment, right?
So, this is Beast Gang 100. What's your comments about Beast Gang 100? Keith?
Beast Game 100. So 100 podcasts that we've done.
First one was X-Men.
X-Men Apocalypse was the first one?
Yeah.
Seriously. Gotcha.
So Beast Gang 100.
Good fun doing this. Surprised at how that it's gone this far, and I wish I had something witty to say that would cap it all off. But here's 100 more.
All right. So Mike,
Yo.
what do you think about Beast Gang 100?
I mean,
Logan.
it's Beast Gang. 100 deep. I mean, some people can't get past 10, so I congratulate you all on all the success and everything you're doing. And I thank you very much for allowing me to be on this 100th episode. That's monumental.
You always Beast Gang since I tried to kill you in the short film. All right. So James,
Yes.
Beast Gang 100.
Funny thing about this, we've always been doing this. Like, even before we start recording, we would just talk about movies.
And that's where all this came out of. And I was like, we need to do something structured with this.
Right. You know, Mike and I talked about movies. Matt and I talked about movies. Keith and I talked about movies. Tyrone and I talked about movies. Barry and I mean, we
I was there for the movies. I was there for all those bad movies.
It's amazing that we kept it going and we're trying to do something with it. And hopefully we get 100 more, get 1,000. Let's just keep pushing.
Matt, Beast Gang 100.
Amazing. That's all I'm gonna say. Could have done it better with a group of friends, especially through all the years. Hopefully we'll make it a Beast Gang 1000. Get it in.
BFF for life! But I'm gonna just say this. I appreciate you guys, all the effort you guys have put in. Just saying, like, hey, we need to start kind of putting this into a format where it makes sense for other people to listen to us. And two of the hardest things to do: see yourself on camera and listen to yourself in a recording.
That is why I would never be on camera. Screw that, man. I'd rather be behind the scenes.
And we will continue to do this. Look at this money! Yeah!
Before spending money on that ticket, download and listen to the Beast Gang.
Okay. Stargazing in them strobe lights. Neon. Club hopping in them bar fights. World star 'em. With the time of our lives, we were wild and reckless in our past life. And by past life, I mean last night. No one can stop us. No one can take us. No, we got the world in our hands. They hating on us. They can't ignore us. The top is where we stand. I know you want this summer for life, but we gon' in this summer tonight. Take a pic, make it last one. We will lit, never turn down. Like it's our last summer, last summer. No one can stop us, no one can take us, no, we got the world in our hands. They hating on us, they can't ignore us. The top is where we stand. I know you want this summer for life, but we gon' in this summer tonight. Take a pic, make it last one. We will lit, never turn down. Like it's our last summer, last summer.